My parents never truly saw me as a person. To them, I was just the slow one, the child who didn't measure up. That label followed me everywhere, through school, through dinner conversations, through every comparison they made. Meanwhile, my brother Derek was their golden child. The genius. The Vale family's shining star who made it all the way to Harvard on a full scholarship. His graduation day was supposed to be a celebration of his brilliance, and a quiet humiliation for me. My father, Richard Vale, stood tall in front of hundreds of guests, his voice booming with pride as he announced Derek's future. He spoke of the family's $75 million business, the new Tesla Model X, and the $13 million New York mansion that would all belong to his perfect son. The applause felt endless. I sat in the back, invisible as always, my hands clasped under the table, pretending I wasn't falling apart inside. That's when a man I'd never seen before stepped up beside me. He leaned down, handed me a thick white envelope, and whispered words that froze my heartbeat. It's time to tell them who you really are. Before I tell you my complete story, subscribe and comment where you're watching from. I'd love to know how far this story travels. That single sentence shattered everything I thought I knew about myself. I grew up in a home where love felt like a prize, and my brother won it every single time. My father's voice filled our house, commanding, cold, impossible to please. He had built our company from his father's success, and he carried that weight like it made him untouchable. Derek was molded to inherit all of it. He was tall, sharp-featured, confident, the image of everything my father admired. And me? I was the afterthought. At family dinners, I sat at the far end of a polished mahogany table that felt more like a courtroom than a home. My father sat at the head, Derek at his right hand, my mother Marion smiling like the judge's assistant, and me, quietly forgotten. When I spoke, the room moved on. My father's sighs could silence me faster than any words. I remember one night vividly. I was 14, and Derek had just been accepted into some advanced science program. The room buzzed with celebration. My father raised his glass and declared, "That's what it means to be a Vale, brilliance, leadership, legacy." Then he looked at me with a smirk and said, "And Aaron managed to pass gym class this year. We should be thankful for small victories." The laughter that followed was soft, but it burned. My mother's chuckle was polite, but not kind. It was a ritual by then, and I was used to being the punchline. Still, there was one person who saw through the noise, my grandfather, Eldon Vale. Eldon had built the company decades ago, long before my father turned it into an empire. He was quiet, thoughtful, and carried a wisdom that never needed to shout. When I visited him, he never asked about grades or trophies. He'd sit with me on his porch, sip coffee, and ask, "What makes you happy, Aaron?" Once, I asked him why he always treated me differently. He smiled and said, "Because I see what they don't. You have something your brother doesn't need to prove, humility. And when the time comes, that will matter more than all their noise." Those words stayed with me, even though I didn't understand them back then. At home, I was invisible. My father groomed Derek like a prince, taking him to meetings, teaching him deals, telling every guest that he was the future of the Vale name. I was never invited. I was told to mow the lawn or stay out of sight. It became clear, I wasn't meant to be part of the family's legacy. When Derek got into Harvard, our house turned into a stage. My mother threw a party that same night. Guests congratulated me as if my brother's success somehow belonged to both of us. But behind my fake smile, I felt hollow. At 19, I stopped waiting for approval. I worked part-time jobs, in diners, warehouses, anywhere that would pay, while my brother posted photos from Europe. My parents dismissed my work as a phase. They didn't realize that in those quiet jobs, I was building something they'd never given me, self-respect. Yet the weight of being the lesser son never left me. My father's voice echoed in my mind. "Aaron, you'll never amount to anything." Those words became a kind of prophecy I fought against every day. When Derek's graduation day finally came, I already knew what to expect: another stage, another speech, another reminder that I didn't belong. I just didn't know that this would also be the day everything would change. That morning, my mother rushed through the mansion, shouting orders about flowers, catering, and photographers. My father rehearsed his speech in the mirror like it was an award ceremony. And me? I was told to dress properly and stay quiet. At the university hall, I sat in the far back, wearing one of Derek's old suits. It didn't quite fit, just like I never fit into the role they wanted for me. The ceremony ended in cheers as Derek crossed the stage. Cameras flashed, parents clapped, and I clapped too, because that's what I was supposed to do. But my hands felt like lead. The real show began at the after-party, a lavish reception in a Manhattan ballroom filled with crystal chandeliers, champagne, and guests dressed like royalty. My father had spared no expense. I tried to disappear into the crowd, standing by the tall vases of lilies. But even there, whispers followed. That must be the other son. Then it began. My father climbed onto the stage, microphone in hand, his voice echoing off the marble walls. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight to celebrate my brilliant son, Derek Vale. Applause erupted. He went on about legacy, about empire, about how the Vale family didn't just build a business, but a dynasty. Then came the announcement that silenced the room for a moment before it exploded again in cheers. Tonight, I'm proud to declare that Derek will inherit the Vale Company, valued at $75 million, along with a Tesla Model X, and our New York mansion. The crowd clapped wildly. My mother's eyes glistened with pride. Derek smiled with the smugness of a man who already owned the world. I stayed seated, heart sinking. My mother passed by me on her way to the stage and whispered sharply, "At least don't ruin this day for your brother." Then she was gone again, back to the spotlight. I clenched my fists under the table. The humiliation was suffocating. All I could think about was my grandfather's words, "When the time comes, you'll know it." And that's when it happened. As the music played and laughter filled the room, a man in a dark suit began walking toward me through the crowd. He wasn't clapping. He wasn't smiling. His eyes were locked on mine. He stopped beside my table, slid a thick white envelope toward me, and whispered, "It's time to tell them who you really are." Then he turned and vanished back into the crowd. I stared at the envelope. My hands trembled as I reached for it. Every cruel word my family had ever said echoed in my head. Every moment of silence. Every time I had been told I didn't matter. But somehow, I knew, whatever was inside that envelope would change everything. I sat there for what felt like hours, staring at the envelope as laughter rippled through the ballroom. Every cheer for my brother felt like another nail sealing my place in the shadows. But the man's words echoed in my mind, "Tell them who you really are." Finally, I tore open the seal. Inside were neatly folded documents and a single handwritten letter. The papers carried the official seal of the Vale Company. My name, Aaron Vale, appeared at the top of each one, not as an afterthought, but as the rightful owner. I blinked, reading faster, my hands shaking. These weren't just papers. They were transfer documents. The Vale Company's ownership, the mansion, and several trust accounts were all listed under my name. At the bottom, a signature I'd recognize anywhere, Eldon Vale, my grandfather. My chest tightened. I opened the folded letter, and the handwriting was his, slow, deliberate, full of purpose. "Aaron, if you're reading this, then the time has come. I have watched both you and Derek grow. I love you both, but I also understand that a legacy without humility turns into tyranny. I built this family from the ground up so it could lift others, not crush them. I've chosen you because you know what it means to be unseen, yet still kind. Don't doubt yourself, everything I've built belongs to you. Use it wisely." The words blurred through my tears. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My grandfather, the man my father claimed had left everything to Derek, had chosen me. All my life, I'd been told I was nothing. Yet here was proof that I had been seen, all along. The music swelled again, the sound of champagne glasses clinking. I tucked the envelope into my jacket. My pulse thundered in my ears. For the first time, I wasn't afraid. The decision came quietly, but firmly. I wasn't going to sit in silence anymore. I rose from my chair. A few heads turned, confused. My father stood at the front, beaming beside Derek as guests congratulated them both. My mother lingered at the edge of the stage, her smile brittle and practiced. I started walking toward them, one step at a time. The room began to still. My father noticed me and frowned, whispering to someone nearby. Derek smirked when he saw me, assuming I was there to play the obedient brother, maybe even to applaud him publicly. But this time, I wasn't walking toward them as the family's embarrassment. I was walking as the truth. When I reached the stage, my father leaned down and hissed under his breath, "Aaron, sit down. This isn't your moment." I met his eyes, and for the first time, I didn't look away. "Actually, Father, this moment belongs to me." The microphone picked it up. The chatter died instantly. Hundreds of guests froze mid-toast, glasses still raised in the air. Derek's grin faded. My mother's expression turned from irritation to alarm. My voice trembled at first, but it grew stronger with every word. All my life, I was told I didn't belong. That I'd never be part of this family's legacy. But tonight, I think it's time everyone here learned the truth. I reached into my jacket and pulled out the envelope. My father's eyes widened, not in fear, but in anger. He stepped closer, his tone sharp and threatening. "Aaron, I'm warning you. Don't make a fool of yourself." But the days of fear were over. I lifted the papers high enough for everyone to see. These are signed transfer documents, from Eldon Vale himself. My grandfather didn't choose arrogance or pride to carry on his name. He chose me. A wave of gasps rippled through the room. Some guests leaned forward, others whispered to each other in disbelief. Derek laughed, a hollow, nervous laugh. "You're joking, right? What are you even talking about?" I handed the first page to a nearby guest, a lawyer who worked with our family for years. His expression changed instantly. "These are legitimate," he murmured under his breath. The crowd erupted again, whispers, shock, confusion. My father turned red, his voice cracking like thunder. "This is nonsense. My father must have been manipulated. He didn't know what he was signing." And then, another voice cut through the chaos. I knew exactly what I was signing. The entire room turned toward the sound. At the far end of the hall, an elderly man with silver hair stood slowly, cane in hand, Eldon Vale himself. The crowd parted as he walked forward, the tap of his cane echoing through the marble floor. His presence, even in age, silenced the room. When he reached the stage, my father's confidence cracked for the first time that night. "Dad, you can't be serious," Richard stammered. "You'd hand everything to him? The boy who failed every expectation we ever set?" Eldon looked at him with steady, disappointed eyes. "You built a company, Richard. But in doing so, you forgot what it was built for, people. You turned my legacy into a mirror for your own pride." He turned to Derek, who stood frozen beside his father. "And you, Derek, you're brilliant, yes. But brilliance without compassion is a curse. I watched you both grow, and it's Aaron who learned what leadership really means. Patience. Resilience. Humility." My father's voice broke with anger. "You'd give everything to the one who did nothing?" "No," Eldon replied. "I'm giving everything to the one who became something, despite you." The chandeliers above us seemed to hum in the silence that followed. For the first time in my life, every eye in that room was on me, not with pity, not with mockery, but with recognition. I turned toward the audience, my voice calm but firm. "All my life, I've been told I was worthless. That I'd never amount to anything. But tonight, you can see the truth for yourselves. My grandfather believed in me when no one else did. And I will honor that faith, not by chasing power, but by leading differently." Slowly, people began to clap. First one, then another, until the sound filled the entire hall, louder than any applause Derek had ever received. My father's face burned red with humiliation. My mother looked like the air had been stolen from her lungs. Derek's smirk collapsed entirely, replaced by something new, fear. Eldon placed a hand on my shoulder and said softly, "Now show them why I was right." The applause thundered across the ballroom, echoing against the chandeliers and polished wood floors. For the first time in my life, that sound wasn't meant for Derek or my father. It was for me. I felt a weight lift, years of silence, humiliation, and doubt finally dissolving into something lighter. My father stood there, red-faced, fists clenched, words caught in his throat. My mother's lips trembled as the perfect smile she'd worn for years cracked apart. Derek was frozen. His glass still raised mid-toast, his eyes wide, not with anger this time, but with disbelief. He tried to laugh, but his voice faltered. "You don't deserve this. You're nothing compared to me." I looked at him, the brother who had mocked me my entire life, and for once, I didn't feel small. "Maybe not in your eyes," I said quietly, "but I'm exactly who grandfather believed I could be. And that's enough." He didn't respond. The fear in his eyes said everything. The foundation he'd built his pride on, the endless validation, the certainty that he'd always win, was gone. Eldon's voice cut through the air once more, calm and steady. "This family will begin again tonight. The company will be led by someone who understands the cost of being overlooked. Aaron, the future is yours, not as a burden, but as a chance to lead with heart." Those words struck something deep within me. I had spent my whole life trying to earn a place at their table, never realizing I'd been meant to build my own. The applause grew again, not just polite, but genuine, full of emotion. Guests who had once ignored me now clapped until the room seemed to vibrate. My father turned and stormed out, the echo of his footsteps sharp and angry. My mother followed, her eyes downcast, her voice silent for once. Derek stayed. His jaw tightened, hands shaking. He glared at me, but said nothing. And I didn't need him to. That night, when the guests had left and the chandeliers dimmed, I stepped outside. The city stretched before me, the lights of Manhattan flickering like tiny stars against the skyline. For years, I'd looked at those lights and thought they belonged to other people, the brilliant, the chosen, the perfect. But now, they felt different. They felt like mine. I thought of the boy I used to be, sitting at the end of the table, laughed at, dismissed, invisible. And I thought of the man I was now, standing in the same world, but finally seen. My grandfather joined me outside, leaning gently on his cane. He looked at me, pride softening his weathered face. "You see it now, don't you?" he asked. I nodded. "Yeah, I do." He smiled, his eyes reflecting the city lights. "Then carry it well. The future is yours, Aaron. Don't let bitterness guide you, let wisdom do it. I took a deep breath. The cool air filled my lungs. The anger, the shame, the years of feeling small, they all drifted away. I realized I didn't need revenge. I had something far stronger. Peace. And as I turned back toward the ballroom, the echoes of applause still faintly audible, I whispered to myself. I was never the dumb one. I was just waiting for my moment. I faced the camera of memory, the audience unseen but felt, and said the truth I had earned. If you've ever been called less, if you've ever been pushed aside or made to feel invisible, remember this. Your worth isn't defined by the people who can't see it. It's defined by the courage you find when it finally matters. Your time will come. And when it does, the truth will speak louder than every insult ever thrown your way. I looked back once more at the skyline, alive, endless, and full of promise, and I smiled. The future was wide open. If you enjoyed this story, give it a like and share it with someone who believes life's biggest surprises often hide in the smallest moments. Drop a comment below about a time something simple changed your world. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories about families, secrets, and the quiet power of truth.